This episode is dedicated to all the brave men we lost along the way.
Clear the room! 30 seconds! Got me with you!
North right stick, starboard side stick. Move fast and clear those murder holes.
Want to see plenty of beef between men. 5 men, defeat the opportunity. 1 man's a waste of ammo.
Stand out of your weapons. Keep those actions clear. I'll see you on the beach.
Protection breaks down and time runs out. Down goes Rodgers in the sack for Leonard Floyd.
Holding his left leg. Oh, boy.
The starting running back for the Ravens hobbled to the locker room. He would put number 81 out of the game. 2 Minnesota Vikings defenders converge on him.
18 and down he goes, and he's grabbing his right knee again.
Take a look at what happened to Kirk Cousins moments ago.
Anthony Richardson is hurt on this play.
News right now is he is in a world of pain. This was the hit.
So Mark Andrews makes the catch, slides inside, and is in agony right now as he gets taken down.
He hit the ground after he attempted that first throw. You see the recoil, the reaction there. Now he's headed back to the ground.
I am told that the replay of Nick Chubb getting injured is not to be seen.
Yeah, we're not going to show it. It's as bad as you can imagine.
What do we do now? What's the rallying point?
Anywhere but here!
Many were lost this season, but some unlikely heroes emerged.
Tell me I've led a good life.
What?
Tell me I'm a good man.
Motion again. Dives, lunges. Touchdown, Miami.
Touchdown. Touchdown. Mostert was in the backfield, 3rd and 7 against the call. There's a nice block from Hill. Oh, look at the move! Dazzling display. Touchdown, Miami. Mostert.
We're rolling. God, that noise was beautiful. Non-existent.
All right, are we ready? Not big difference.
Just did.
All right, here we go. All right, one take, right? One take. Welcome back!
We didn't test that.
You did it. One take. Smokers
Not the
laugh
one that-
afterwards.
that makes you cough at that level this week. Do that again and I'll reach out.
2 takes. Let's go.
2 takes.
1 cup. Let's go.
Ready? Welcome back!
Can you feel it? I want Bruce Lee in over here again. Sorry.
Welcome back to this second episode of the Triple Option Podcast. I am your host, Sam, here with my co-host, Nor, and of course, JB behind the glass. Welcome back, gentlemen. All right, well, we've made it to the end of the regular season, and as stated in the intro, some of us have been dragged and kicked to the finish line, and a lot has changed since our last podcast, and one of the biggest being that our lovely and talented JB has gone from a human centipede of failure in San Diego to a top 2 highest scoring team in the history of our great league. Jason, why don't you give us some insight into the drastic turnaround, How does it feel? And was this all part of your plan?
Let me start off by saying it feels great. It feels great, baby. I feel like if anything has changed, it's been my luck. Instead of, constantly seeing my guys go down and unfortunate circumstances just continue to unravel, things have mostly been falling in my favor. I only really had one significant injury in the beginning of the season, so I had plenty of time to adjust and, make moves around that. And then fucking Tyreek, baby. Like, the guy's a god, and I feel so fortunate to have been able to roster him like once in my fantasy career, because it's crazy having a player that can instantly, like in one play, just score 14 points and an entire player's output in one play. And he does it on the regular. And it's just like such a game changing haymaker that you can land every week. And it's almost like weird when it doesn't happen, which I think is the strangest part. But yeah, thanks to Nipple and Tyreek Hill.
All right, yeah, that's all great points, all valid points, and well-deserved. No one's gone through the rigors of our league, such as you have, as we all saw your past failures dragged behind you in San Diego. So good for you. You deserve it. And Tyreek Hill, that's a great point. I mean, he's obviously one of the biggest sledgehammers in the league. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the only 3 people to have Tyreek are in this room, correct? You drafted him, traded him to me, and then I let him go in the draft, and Jason drafted him.
Well, I believe actually I acquired him through a trade with Mike. So Mike drafted him, and I remember that draft specifically. That was my Butler draft.
Mm-hmm.
I was staring at him.
Wait, why do you remember it?
Because the bells never stop ringing in these ears. But I was staring at him in the second round. I remember not taking him, and you being very excited, Sam. And then a couple picks later, Mike snags him, and just is one of the few times I've seen you like truly get upset that you didn't get your guy. I think it happens to everybody. It's kind of a satisfying moment when you're on the other side of it, where you're like, "Oh, I got someone that you really wanted," but you were vividly upset. I could remember, and so you inevitably working out and getting Tyreek, I'm sure was very satisfying. But yeah, 3 of the 4 people that have ever owned Tyreek are in this room.
Good enough. Good enough for me. 3 of the 4 people to actually profit off of him. All right. Well, thank you for that, Jason. Best of luck going into the playoffs. And speaking of the playoffs, as we head into the great unknown, I wanted to start off by taking a moment to look back and reflect on the season that was. Obviously, we don't have enough time or the will to look back on everything, but let's pick out a few things that stood out to us in a few different categories. First of which, on the lighter side of things, and something you and I take great pride in, Nor, team names. Have any team names stood out to you in either a positive or negative fashion?
Also happy that this is one of the few times I can say I'm on the lighter side of something. Holiday weight, baby. Feels great until you put pants on. Obviously, the team name game has evolved into its own little piece of the puzzle here for us. It's an enjoyable weekly excursion as we just go rogue and pick a theme and have some fun with it. And I think it's just another layer added to our wonderful league here. Shout out to you and Kev. I feel like we really killed it this year with the themes. I mean, we kept it topical when needed. Time of the year plays a role in it. And I honestly was looking back through all the names, and I was thinking, you could really pick any team name from weeks 6 through 9. Nice. Giggity. And have a winner. We got song lyrics. We got horror movies. We got superheroes. We got wrestling finishers. It's like you found my old dating profile and just broke it down into themes. It's phenomenal. Close battle in the end, but I ended up inevitably choosing song titles, purely because I can't say your team name without just having the song and the video just play in my brain. Don't go chasing waterholes is put it on a shirt, hang it in the Louvre. It's everything I ever wanted.
We appreciate that. Kevin and I take great pride in these names, but let me reciprocate here, because for me, you've been killing it all season with the names, and as you have your entire career. But last week's name for our Die Hard theme, Schuster se Glas, and I can't say it without the accent. I may have looked back fondly on that at least 5 times during our weekend whenever I saw it in the live scoring. I gave a little smile and a giggle. It's unique enough to pin it directly to Die Hard, right? You're not going to get confused with anything else. It has an NFL tie-in, and it's niche enough where you'd have to not just be a casual Die Hard fan to appreciate it. So, amazing stuff.
Well, let's not start sucking each other's dicks quite yet.
And then, for me, an honorable mention to Mike, what now appears to be an annual Meltdown name for this year, Team Basura, which is just another iconic name to add to his growing list of Meltdown monikers. So, good job for Mike, but kudos to you, No, for Schuster's at Glass. And if you don't know, you better call somebody.
This channel is reserved for emergency calls only.
No fucking shit, lady. Do I sound like I'm ordering a pizza?
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right. So, getting into the nuts and bolts of our league, let's talk about wheeling and dealing. Specifically, what were the biggest trades of the year? Maybe the most impactful or shocking or one-sided. What stood out to you, Nor?
You know, probably the most beautiful part of this league, honestly, is just that there's deals all the time. They happen frequently. I think the way the league is structured and the offseason deals and everything, like, just kind of keeps us all tapped in, year round and stuff. So there's a lot of trades to look through. I couldn't help but think back to the big Mahomes trade, which obviously we'll talk about later. Spoiler. But JB kind of queued it up perfectly. JB and Mike made some huge trades, multiple trades that really just, I think, shaped a lot of things for the whole season here, especially JB's, meteoric rise to power here. If you look back at Lamar, the Lamar trade and, sending Lamar, getting Nick Chubb, getting the pick that turned into Tyreek. I mean, these are heavy hitter names. These are top of the food chain level, players at their positions. And I think it's really rare to trade away a player as valuable, as big as Lamar, and feel like you got enough. But like, even with Chubb getting hurt, what Tyreek's done feels like JB's still, cleared on this. But frankly speaking, Superflex League, Dynasty League, Mike's got his cornerstone QB. There's still plenty of, sides of this that can say like, hey, Mike did just fine. The reason I said multiple trades was because it's hard not to even also kind of tack on back end was JB swinging big for Purdy. I mean, hefty price tag, first round pick, but definitely paying off so far. Looks like it set him up really well for now and for the future potentially. And, these are big time swings. And this is great to see big swings connecting like this and Mike getting max value for a player. You can't get any more than that. And Jay taking his nuts on the table move, one of many. But just watching it pan out, super satisfying to see how it's played out and just exciting for the whole league, honestly.
Yeah, those are great. Those are great ones to point out. Those are league-altering trades. They shifted the plate tectonics and the power dynamics of our league. So, kudos to you on picking out those. For me, I've got two as well. One is going to be league-altering, and the other one is going to be beer bitch defining. So the first is league-altering. For me, excluding the ones that you mentioned, which are great examples. I wanted to point out the trade between Corey Hart and my brother Alex Green, where Corey gave up Mac Jones, Michael Pittman, and a 2024 first-round pick, and my brother gave up Trevor Lawrence and Puka Nacua. So obviously we've seen what they've been able to do. Now I know Puka's somehow made his way back home, but in the meantime, like you said, we're all trying to build around young, established quarterbacks. So establishing Trevor Lawrence there as a mainstay quarterback for Corey, and then my brother getting back that first-round pick, which now could be, it's definitely top 4, but it could be the number 1 overall, and Trevor Lawrence may help him get there. So we're going to see how that trade plays out, but depending on if that is the 101 next year, that could be a huge dynamic shift in our league to whoever owns that pick. And then the beer bitch defining pick, it's no surprise who this is, but your cousin, Sonny, gave up Dalton Schultz, a first-round pick in 2023, and a 2024 fourth-round pick, and Alex Slater gave up Miles Sanders and T. Higgins. Now, I think as we know, Miles Sanders and T. Higgins have been basically useless for the entirety of the year, And that first round pick was the 108 that Sonny gave up. So he traded for 2 useless players, and now Alex Slater did pick Mark Andrews at that 108, who was obviously a very usable fantasy asset until he got injured for the year. But other options are on the table too. Maybe Mark Andrews wasn't Sonny's cup of tea, but I think he could have done a lot better than acquiring Miles Sanders and T. Higgins for that first round pick. So I think that really put him behind the 8 ball for the rest of the year, and he's unfortunately reaping what he sowed there. So those are my 2 biggest trades of the year.
Sound like a fair trade to me.
All right. So continuing on the train of transactions, part of creating a championship roster is definitely navigating the waiver wire. Which free agent pickups this year were the best or most impactful in your eyes, Nor?
I actually agreed with you.
Okay.
On this, so.
Yeah. I didn't want to steal your thunder.
No.
But it's hard to not choose these 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what's funny is they're the same day.
Right.
So, just a flash of lightning on the same day where 2 ginormous acquisitions occurred. That's Corey Hart acquiring Puka Nacua on September 13th for $5. And as of this week, this undrafted rookie in our league, 82 catches, 1,113 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So he's outproducing a lot of people that were drafted well ahead of him and picked up well before him. And the other is Mike Arriola on the same day, that aforementioned September 13th, acquired Kyron Williams for $3. And as of this week, he's averaged. This is the most insane part. Averaging 16.7 fantasy points per game. Now, he missed games, obviously, but averaging 16.7 off the waiver wire is quite a treat. So obviously he's not resting on Mike's team right now, but 2 huge free agent pickups that have really shifted the power dynamic in our league.
Yeah, I think both these players kind of show some of the, obviously, we'll just call it the beauty of fantasy football, in that, the Rams aren't playing for much. They're not doing a whole lot, but they're in the perfect game script most weeks, it seems. We just saw it last week, just the other day. Their defense is not great, so they have to score a bunch of points, and therefore their offensive weapons are constantly involved, constantly on the field, needing to get points, and it's just kind of what you hope for when you draft a player. Ironic that both these guys were picked up and not drafted, so lucky for the most of us that maybe they'll end up back in the pool and we can take our own shots at them. But we can have a whole separate episode on players traded away and then traded back for. I think there'd be a lot of Puka going on, Higgins a couple times. There's just been a rotation of some people where it's straight up can't quit you and need you back.
All right. Enough of the positives, Nor. Let's talk about pain points, specifically the biggest busts of the 2023 season. This could be players drafted this year, or perhaps were on a gala roster last year under a multi-year deal and had high expectations going into this season. Let's steer away from the season-ending injuries and more towards on-field performance, utilization. Who comes to mind for you?
Well, before I give my true full answer here, as I want to do, I'm going to do a special shout-out. And this one's to me. I have had a fucking disaster of a running back room in terms of what I thought was just my RB2 spot. But as it turns out lately, it's the whole squad. Attempts to Band-Aid fix these issues have left me beyond sad and reaching for several bottles of Milagro. Whether it's trading for Madison, a player whom I was never high on, but felt like could maybe offer some kind of upside and stop the bleeding on my RB2 issue. Not so much. Or Brian Robinson, an equally inefficient player that gets high volume and has already managed to get injured. As a result, I am now dragging a Scooby-Doo van full of shit zippers into the free-for-all at running back. So, shout out to me. But I think the biggest bust or surprise to me is more of a, we'll call it a long building story that led to this point, where a once beloved, once surefire top dynasty pick, Najee Harris found his way onto the waiver wire, and even onto my team, which again, Scooby-Doo van full of shit, running back room. So here we are. But I felt like Najee was due for having a huge year. The Steelers invested in the offensive line. He showed more than enough flashes towards the end of last year to where you think, hey, they figured it out. They're featuring him. They know how to do it. Everything's going to be great. and they just couldn't quite get out of their own way. You can blame Matt Canada as much as you want. Shout out Corey, leading the charge there to get, I don't know, probably half the league fired at this point. Just really didn't turn out the way we thought. So I got to say, that was like a strong multi-year buildup into that finally just being like called a bust as it should be.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, I know. And when we posed this question to each other, I took the personal route as well. So I just want to point some of those out because it's cathartic, and you're going to have to sit here and listen to me. I had really thought Seven's roster was set with Breece Hall being a top 10 running back, Jahan Dotson as a top 24 wide receiver, and Quentin Johnston being able to amass, 300 yards on the season, but too much to ask for there. But objectively, there were more impactful busts than my own. So to me, two ones really stood out to me. One, and they're both quarterbacks in our 2-quarterback league. One's Patrick Mahomes, the one that I traded away. Kevin and I traded away the 101. He was taken for $44 at the QB position, and he's only gone over 20 fantasy points in our league 3 times in 2023. Only 20. So not a high bar to clear for one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So I think unequivocally his on-field performance has been a bust. And then the second quarterback is another number 1 overall pick, but in the NFL draft, and that is Bryce Young, drafted at the 106 and signed for a $15 deal. Right now, he's averaging 8.9 fantasy points per game at the quarterback position, and unfortunately has been started by Corey many times this year, which may explain Corey's positioning in the playoff hunt. But those are my 2 biggest busts of the year, is Patrick Mahomes and Bryce Young.
We got to get some time at some point here to talk about the thought process for you and Kev to move off of Mahomes at the presumed 101 pick, and yeah, getting Herbert in the deal changed a lot of minds when it comes to those opportunities, and his age plays a part, his obvious upside plays a part, the type of offense he's in, everything. But it's truly shocking to see Mahomes end up with this type of season. I think we all, we were talking about Tyreek earlier, and it's like there's certain players you just feel like are infallible outside of injury or something like that, truly playing a part. And it's been nuts. By almost no fault of his own has he ended up on this list, right? We've seen it week in, week out, him hitting guys, MVS, right in the hands multiple times. Complete asshats lining up off sides and ruining things. It's been wild to see, but truly warranted. Certainly not what you expect to get when you pay up in any type of league, in any type of format for Patrick Mahomes. And the Bryce Young one, I hate to, put a stamp on rookie quarterbacks like all too soon, but you really wish you could see some of the like flashes here and there throughout the year of like, here's what they're going to build around. Here's what they're going to make the inevitable offense around, and et cetera, et cetera. And I think it's always tough when you have an exact person at the same position to compare against, right? And it's how it goes with quarterbacks. The Mahomes side of it is you guys can compare him to Herbert straight up. Like, hey, heads up, this is how he looked, this is how he performed. For Bryce Young, it's obviously Stroud. And, the whole cluster that went into Carolina selecting Bryce Young is what it is. But going to take a lot for them to improve everything around him enough to maybe see some positivity here. So, yeah, just a huge fucking mess.
That it is. All right. One last chance to look back at the season that was before we look ahead. What was your most memorable moment from the 2023 Gridiron Gala regular season? What's something that you or we will reminisce on for years to come?
So I felt like in order to like truly hit the mark on this, I needed to channel a player I never thought I'd need to channel. Someone who I never thought I'd want to even pretend to method act as. But I'm going to have to call on Russell Wilson to help deliver this. So excuse me while I switch gears into Russell Wilson.
Is it at home Russell Wilson or in the locker room Russell Wilson?
This is post-game.
Oh, okay. All right. So
press conference.
White Russell Wilson.
Extremely. We're talking glass of milk Russell Wilson. Styrofoam glass of Wilson.
No talking during the transformation.
What's up, everybody? Good to be here. just glad to have the opportunity to play in this game and be a part of this lovely organization, this wonderful team. Praise to the big man upstairs for getting me here. Questions? When it comes to this season, I think the best way I can describe it is, you know what do the kids say? They say no cap, like you're not wearing a hat, or like no cap. That means, I guess it means like you're not lying or you're being truthful or something. I'm always truthful. I'm always bringing it up front, like that's how I want to be, and that's how I approach every situation every day. That's how I come to work. But in the Gridiron Gal, this season-long battle against our own cap constraints, I mean, talk about no cap, right, guys? Nickel and diming our way through maneuvers. Just kidding. I'm not gonna be Russell Wilson this whole time. That's fucking terrible. That cringe might never leave my body. The most memorable thing for me this whole year, and this is probably the second, third time I've already mentioned Mike in this the early goings of this episode. Clearly, I miss you, Mike. Let's hang out. We've already talked about his trades, and that plays a part in this too. But the lottery ticket approach he took to quarterback in the draft played a part throughout the year. He grabbed quarterbacks at every possible turn and managed to make moves along with them. And in the classic scared money don't make money approach that we all know and love, he ended up printing some money with these QB gems. And after his staggering 1-5 start to the year, as you alluded to earlier, the name change meltdown, the coaching job that it did can't go overlooked. His team responded, coming out to win 6 of the next 7 and stamp his way into the free-for-all. Gotta give it to you, Mike. Only you can motivate a team in such ways, and only you can make money in ways that we didn't even think possible throughout the draft. So, shout out, Mike.
All right. Okay. For me, it was week 13. That's my most memorable moment. Week 13. Because my favorite NFL and fantasy win occurred in the same 2-day period. So it's special for me. It may not be special for others. I think others may have reveled in the success that Kevin and I experienced, but I think truly no one felt it as deeply as Kevin and I. So the 49ers back up all the smack talk and whoop the Eagles in Philly.
Yay.
And then I had thought Corey was going to also back up all of his smack talk by whooping 7 again. So I decided to check out of our matchup going into Monday Night Football. I was so checked out to the point where I thought Corey was still starting Jake Browning, which I thought was a 4D chess move since Kevin and I were so reliant on Joe Mixon and Jamar Chase. And then at about 7 p.m., I started getting texts about the matchup, specifically how well Mixon and Chase were doing. I wasn't watching the game and ended up not watching or looking at the score until the game completed. And then I checked. 42 points combined for Mixon and Chase, and 7 slayed their demon Corey. Just a euphoric weekend with the Niners, Sledgehammer, the Corey going down on Monday Night Football. It was a glorious 48 hours I'll never forget. Week 13 of 2023.
Let's slay the beast tonight. Let's slay
All right.
the beast.
Now that the dust has settled and the free-for-all is set, looking at the rosters, the matchups, which owners are going to put themselves in position to move on to the next round, Nor?
Well, I know there are certain conversations we wish weren't happening right now, but we can't go any longer without talking about it. Tony's team has been on some kind of run and seems to be well positioned to do some serious damage. Any given week seems to be able to score well over 130 points in some cases. We highlighted Kyron earlier. He's got people, and so I think my prediction is that Mike and Tony are gonna make it out of the first round free for all. Unfortunately for most of us, myself included, if this goes that way. But I know there's some matchups that maybe could swing it differently for Mike in particular. But I think he's got enough top heavy studs to get the job done, and I think that's going to be rounding out the first round for me.
All right. So let's look then beyond the free-for-all. And since we may not pod again until the season's complete, who wins their respective matchups and moves to the championship game? Feel free to guess. As you may know, the number 1 overall seed gets to select their opponent. I'll allow you to speculate on who you think that number 1 seed is going to select, but who moves on to the final?
It's true. That is a huge variable, and one that I'll admit.
I'm sorry, huge?
Huge.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Ginormous, huge. Huge swinging Johnston level of variability here. But I think the obvious assumption would be, Slate would have to, how could he not choose, to try and just sweet chin music Tony off the Eiffel Tower. But as we know about Slate, just when you think you got him figured out, he does not do what we think he's going to do to cue up a perfect, probably meltdown, essentially. So I think we would lead to a Tony JB final, is what I'm expecting. And I don't like to stick to staying chalk here or anything like that, but I think Slate's matchups, not great. And, he's not going to be able to get through in that way. Just Miami being the core, their matchups not being great. I think it's gonna be tough. Jacobs' injury just hit. We don't know the severity of it yet. Lamb's been going nuclear, but I don't know if that's enough. So my prediction is a Tony JB final.
All right, and then let's complete the circle here. We've got Tony in one corner, JB behind the glass in the other. Who takes it home? Who takes home the hardware?
I know how this is gonna sound. I know what we're all worried about. I'm not trying to reverse jinx the football gods or anything here, but sometimes the obvious answer is obvious for a reason. JB's team has just been on another level. It's been steamrolling people all year. There isn't much else to say, except this man has 3 goddamn MVP candidates on his roster. I don't know what else makes you the favorite. You have to be the favorite. And that's all I got to say about that. I think it's JB hanging banners.
Yep. Bring another championship home for the Triple Option podcast. Yep. We're all contributing in that. So, yeah, just take that, rest of the league. All right. On the other side of the coin, the losers bracket is also set. How do you see that playing out?
I got to admit, this recent performance from Corey's team has made this really interesting. Wouldn't be surprised at all if his team just continues with the momentum that he started off this week and he gallops his way, through the bracket. Would love to see a final, obviously, for the sheer theatrics of it, of Corey versus Andy, because Corey would still hold control of Andy's pick and would thus have to set his lineup. And that whole dichotomy of how do I set Andy's lineup if you're Corey? Do you want to just try and get the pick, or how are you going to make this work? Or are you going to try and upset the gods and not put out your best lineup in either matchup? So I just want to see what's going to happen with that. But my actual pick is Andy. I think Andy's team, aside from his wide receivers, sometimes being a little hit or miss, is pretty locked and loaded right now. The complete eruption that Rachaad White is on is phenomenal to see, honestly. He's got heavy hitters in the QB room. Obviously, CMC is, we won't even speak of it. He's nameless. He's limitless. And with Rachaad White coming out like he has been, I think all Andy needs is a little bit of juice from Isaiah Flowers occasionally, or really any other receiver to just kind of not goose. And I think he's in a great spot. So Andy's my pick.
All right. Well, a lot of speculating on the winners and losers of both the playoff bracket and the losers bracket, but regardless of the postseason efforts, one fate is already set, and that's our 2024 beer bitch. Not Jason,
You did it.
but Sonny.
Son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch.
Was this a deserving beer bitch, nor if not, who was spared?
I mean, come on. How are we going to talk about spares and not bring up what that tall drink of water Corey's been up to for the last few weeks? Years, excuse me. This most recent flurry of desperation, unfortunately, paid off. You saw his team perform last week. That's with a hobbled Lawrence. And being able to pull that trade off, I think also just it just catapulted him into a new line of potential possibilities here. When push came to shove, though, his team stepped up. It was winner take all or lose all in this case. I think for Sonny's team, really shocking, to be honest, to be at this point of the season and talking about this scenario. I feel like going to the draft, he looked like he had one of the more complete rosters. He certainly had a dearth of draft capital, was able to add more draft capital along the way here for next year. I'm sure it wasn't the ending he wanted or expected, but as JB can tell you, as I can tell you, sometimes this is the exact path you need to be on in order to get the cornerstone players you need for a future championship run. So, hate to say it, it's fantasy. Sometimes you can be like JB and you can fuck fantasy. And sometimes fantasy fucks you.
Yeah. It's a rite of passage, some would say, in our league to winning the championship. So it could be looked favorably upon. Maybe Corey's were going to regret that he didn't get Beer Bitch. Hopefully he guns for it next year. So you know Sonny better than any of us, Nor. Is he going to make a good Beer Bitch? Is he going to be a good sport?
There's one thing you can say about this man. He only gives 100,000%. There's no limitations. He will get beers at lightning, thunder, he'll get the beers, and he will deliver them, and they will happen. Anything else for the rest of the weekend, I can't guarantee. But he will get beers, and that's what will happen.
All right, great. All right, so before we sign off, any final thoughts? Let's go round the table here. Nor anything for the fellow league mates of the Gridiron Gala?
I got two. I got to take any moment, any opportunity I can to thank you, Dr. Samuel, for the amazing work as our beloved commish and all the work that it takes to pull off this league and keep it running and everything that we do. The draft trips get exponentially better every year. That is a lot, almost exclusively due to your efforts and planning. And I know Andy helped a lot this year. Corey helped a lot this year. Slater helped as well. Like it is a team effort, but you lead the way and we appreciate your work. And so I just had to make sure you got your flowers at the end of the year here. Maybe even say flowers, maybe talk to Andy. I don't know. But that was the first one. Second one, I got to formally welcome back Gomez. Been waiting to do it, wanting to see him to do it in person, but we haven't had the chance to make it happen yet. Just excited to have the whole team back, the whole fellowship, if you will, back to have fun together and playing this wonderful league. And just excited to hear him call us all of the things that we haven't been called for a couple years because only he calls us those things.
Wow, kid, you're a little faggot.
And looking forward to it. See you soon, G-Money.
All right, Jason, anything for the league?
Yeah, just kind of echo some of the points that Nor was making. I'm a pretty solitary guy for the most part, but this league is always super fun. We get so many laughs and those connections from our friends that, we maybe not talk to for years otherwise, but having these, active dialogues almost every day and keeping those connections alive has always been a kind of blessing in the life. And I think that each of you enrich my life with your friendships. But I just want to thank you all for being a part of this and continuing this into the future. And like Nor said, I'm really happy to have Gomez back. He's going to be an excellent character to have sticking around. I just love you guys. That's about it.
Isn't it amazing how positive things get when your team is a historic scoring? But right now, if you listen carefully, Jason's team is still scoring during one of his matchups. +1 to all that. I'll let you close out, Sam.
Of course, yeah. And, this league is great, but you all are what make the league great. So don't ever forget that, despite how annoying Slater will be if he wins the championship. All right, well, there you go. There you have it. A regular season review for the 2023 Gridiron Gala Fantasy Football League. We've explored the highs and the lows and look forward to an exciting postseason and crowning this season's champion. Best of luck to everyone heading into their matchups. And from everyone here at the Triple Threat Podcast, we bid you farewell.
Goodbye.